Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of our weekly podcast with myself and none other than Jay the Bustin' Out Bustin'. Had a great time with the stream last week, or when, I don't know, days are hard when you're adulting, whenever that was. Had a great time. That was a lot of fun. I don't know if you could tell. I think we had a pretty good time with that.
Yeah, it went over pretty well, and
I think the fact that it went 2.5 hours probably.
Yeah, like we definitely learned a lot from the experience. You know, I'm used to streaming for hours and hours and hours at a time. 2.5 hours isn't really hard to do. It's just more of like podcasts are different than streams, so we learned a lot. We'll do it again for episode 10. We'll have more information on that as the time draws nearer.
For sure. Real quick, just to throw a shout out there and just kind of in respect. Upon today's recording of the podcast, Stan Lee unfortunately passed away today.
Yeah, very sad to hear that.
Yeah, it was a fantastic guy from literally anyone you ever talk to. It means a lot to almost any person out there, not just nerds. You know, his Marvel stuff has been a huge impact on almost anyone you could probably say that you know. So our best wishes and everything goes out to his family as they go through this time. That's never something fun to go through, but just holding a drink up to you, Stan.
Yeah, 95 years old. Dude lived well.
Very much so. Back to a gaming sense. I know we talked a little bit about this in, I want to say episode 4 and as well as a streaming podcast. So from here on out, leading up into episode 10, the idea, what we want to do is start to really dig deep into the Game of the Year categories, not just the Game of the Year, but, you know, all the categories that come with it, such as Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Art Direction, Score, Audio Design, Performance, etc. All those categories that kind of dig deep into things. Now, the unfortunate thing is we would have liked to kind of start that now, but this is the only time we could record for this week's podcast, and unfortunately they have not made the announcements for the nominees yet. They are literally doing it tomorrow. So we missed it by one freaking day.
Kind of sucks, but I mean, like, it's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday, and
right.
Like we don't have the time to sit down and record, and even then it's cutting it close because then you got to edit it and get it all together and all that stuff, and then Wednesday the episode comes out, so
right.
Kind of sucks that happened that way, but we do have, you know, there are guesses out there, posts on the internet about, well, these are probably going to be the games in those categories, whether they're from legitimate leaks or just other people's opinions, and we could talk about those, but we don't want to, like, you know, speculate too much on things, and then by the time this podcast will come out, like, you'll know for certain, so it just, It didn't really seem worth doing, so we're not really going to talk about it a whole lot this week.
At least not yet. We'll get there though, and we're going to hit the ground running hard next week on it.
Oh yeah, next week. Next week's going to be a good week, my friends.
Oh yeah, grab your belts, put them on, get your suspenders,
buckle your pants, ladies and gentlemen.
Buckle your pants, but get off your burp and dance. Thank you. Now that song's going to be stuck in my head.
You're welcome.
For the rest of the day. Ah, gosh. If anyone doesn't know what that is, oh man,
go play a game called Battle Block Theater. It's definitely one of the funniest games I've ever played.
Or just if you don't have time to play it, just go watch all the cutscenes on YouTube. You'll laugh your freaking head off. So before we get into the main topic of today, I'm gonna kind of hit on just like a little light topic that'll just kind of give us a little segue into it. So coming soon within the next couple of days / this week, whatever you want to call it, we have several games that are coming out that we have kind of talked about in the past. The 3 that come to mind is Fallout, the 2 new Pokemon games, as well as a Spyro remake.
Yeah, I'm honestly like, in one way or another, I'm looking forward to all of these games, but my bank account is not, so I'm not buying. I'm honestly, like, if I'm going to walk away with any of them this week, it's going to be Spyro. In fact, I'm buying Spyro this week, I will tell you that.
Oh, okay. See, that actually put a wrinkle in what I was going to ask. I was going to say, from first to last, which one? Well, maybe not. I was which one are you most excited about in order?
In order, that's hard.
exactly. I can tell you what my last one is.
Like, yeah, like the Pokemon series, I'm not too crazy about. My wife wants to try them, so we might end up with a copy of them. We'll probably end up with a copy of them, and she'll play it, and I'll watch her play it. And if I like it, I might also go out and get it, because I think they're only $40. I don't think they're a full price game. So
yeah, I think RDS told us that a couple weeks ago.
So you know, not too hard to break the bank, and because they work so well with Pokemon Go, and I'm still an avid Pokemon Go player, it might be worth the investment. But at the same time, if there's nothing there, I don't want it. So you know, she might test it for me, and we'll see what happens. But she also is a big Spyro fan, growing up with the PlayStation, and she's very excited about this game, and I'm excited that she's excited about this game. And I'm pretty excited about the game too. So we're definitely going to have that. We will probably be streaming it Saturday or something like that. It'll be a lot of fun. And then Fallout 76. I want to play it, but you got to play it with friends. And I don't think our group of friends is buying it at launch. I think the general idea, just off of a couple of reasons, you know, whether it's moving 5 hours away or just not wanting to buy the game because of Bethesda's launch history. We're going to wait, I think, is the general consensus. But I am going to get it on PS4.
Which is okay with me, because my general consensus, for as long as I can remember, any of the games that are multiplayer and have, you know, everything's online and server-based, I never worry about getting that within the first 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes even month, because it's just server problems out the wazoo, because you can only prep so much, and stuff just it always overloads.
Now they did have the beta for Fallout 76 on all platforms in the past week or two leading up to the launch, and you saw a lot of good. There were a lot of people I saw that like they had their friends try it too, and their friends who weren't really into either online games or Fallout games or whatever said, "Hey, this is a lot of fun." So that bodes well. I also saw a lot of people saying this game is not going to be ready for launch. It still has a lot of major issues, which does not bode well. And one of my friends flat out couldn't play the last day of the beta because they couldn't get the game to connect. So that's generally why you want to wait on things like this. But like the good news is like once you have the game, you have the game. So like you spend $60 on it, you know, this week and try it, and you know, maybe you can connect and maybe all your friends will get it and you'll have a great time. And if not, well, you'll just spend $60 on it in a week or two like I will. So, you know, it's not like you're losing anything out of this.
I agree with that. So for my answer to the same question I just asked you, in order, it'd be Fallout, then Spyro, and then Pokemon.
I'd probably flip Spyro and Fallout.
And they're pretty dang close. It's more of I know I would play Fallout with people, so that one gets me more excited because I just like hanging out with friends. So that's it's less of the game, more of what the game is going to allow to happen, I guess I should say.
Fair.
I do love Spyro though. That's one of my favorite games playing growing up.
I didn't play much of it, and unfortunately, our copy of I think we have Ripto's Rage for the original PlayStation has some data rot on it, the disc. So there's no music. Or in some cases, like no sound at all. And so it's kind of like the game still plays just fine for the most part, from what I understand. But I mean, it is dated controls. That's another part of it. But it's just like I feel like I'm not getting the full experience. So this will kind of allow me to, for me, it'll really be discover the franchise because I didn't play much of this game. And for my wife, she'll be able to relive it and rediscover it. And I think she's excited about it. So.
Oh yeah, music is a huge part of really any experience. I mean, could you imagine watching any Star Wars movie without music?
Yeah, that'd be really, really bizarre.
It'd be really odd and offset. But imagine if it was just quiet the whole time and all you just heard was just as they're sitting there swinging swords at each other.
It was really funny. I was actually just talking about this with a friend last week. There was a Let's Player who recorded some Mario Kart 7 footage, which is the 3DS one, with a friend, and the audio got lost. And so what they did is they recorded all the audio themselves. And so whenever they'd go like use a mushroom or go over a booster, they just go zoom. Just like it was just all spoken audio, and it was hilarious.
Yes. See, that kind of stuff is awesome, though. You just lean into it. Don't even try to make it good. Just be silly with it. That's the best.
Have some fun with it.
Oh yeah, which that gives me a good idea for something later. But anyway, so to get into the meat of what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jay with a topic we have discussed a little bit in previous episodes and kind of dig a little deeper into it today. And what we tend to do a lot of times is whatever we talk about, one of us is going to have a little more homework done on it, and the other one kind of takes a step back and has a little more blindness to it, so that the questions we ask are questions that someone would ask if they didn't know. It kind of makes it go a little better in that scenario. So in this episode, Jay is the knowledgeable one, and I am the dunce, so to speak.
I feel like it's pretty accurate to real life too.
That's fair.
So we started to allude to this in episode 4, but we didn't want to talk about it too much because neither one of us had really done the homework. And so we kind of just asked for your opinion on it. And we're talking about like cloud-based gaming or server-based gaming. Subscription-based gaming is really the best way to put it. And so in theory, in a nutshell, basically what it is kind of like Netflix, like Hulu or whatever, your subscription-based things where, instead of buying a DVD or a season of a TV show or whatever, you pay this service a monthly fee, which for Xbox, it's $10 a month. And you have access to a library of things to watch, or in this case, play. And there's over 100 games. In fact, they just announced 12 new ones coming to the platform, including such favorites as PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and 11 other games no one's ever heard of. I was so like, just to rewind, Xbox had this friggin' press conference on Saturday, and the whole thing was around this this subscription service. It's called Xbox Game Pass. Sorry, didn't mean to lose the title there.
That's fine.
And so it's a good idea in theory. All right, in theory, I'm like 60% on board with this thing. All right, some of the pros of it, it's oh, sorry, I changed subjects a minute there. They had this press conference on Saturday. It was 2 hours long, and they were talking about new games. It was kind of like a mini E3 sort of for Xbox, but they didn't talk about anything. And when they did, it was really boring. And they really focused heavily on this Xbox Game Pass thing, and they announced the 12 new titles. And I shouldn't say they are games no one's ever heard of, but, no huge AAA titles because none have come out for the Xbox, so like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is on there now, which is interesting enough because that's already a server-based game. So it's like now you're kind of relying on 2 servers. But it's also got other titles like Ori and the Blind Forest was just announced for it and stuff like that, which is a fantastic little Metroidvania of a game. If you've never played it, I highly recommend it. I think it won Best Art Direction the year it came out, and rightfully so. It is gorgeous. I've had a little bit of caffeine today.
That's fine. Roll with
it. So Xbox Game Pass, $10 a month or $60 for 6 months, which saves you $0. I don't know why that's an option. I guess if you just want to pay it all up
Microsoft.
front. I guess if you just want to pay it all up front, like whatever, who cares? It saves you nothing.
Oh, gosh.
So there's that. They've got over 100 games for it. Some of the pros of it is they're discovering, there's analytics, just in the same way that Netflix kind of is paying attention to what you and what other people are watching to kind of know what people want to watch and what to bring to their platform. Xbox is naturally doing the same thing with games, and what they're noticing is that more gamers are trying more different types of games because they're there. They're like, right. You already have access to them. You don't have to pay anything extra because you're already paying the $10 subscription fee. For casual gamers that are just going to go out, buy a game, and then probably return it to GameStop or whatever and get most of the money back or sell it themselves through Facebook Market or Craigslist or whatever. I think this is not a bad idea, which is weird for me to say because on principle, I don't like this idea. Mm-hmm. Because it could mean some really scary things for gaming in the future, as Ubisoft's CEO Yves Guillermo kind of pointed out, but we'll get to that in a minute.
So it's
Sorry,
real quick, I have two questions that come to mind already, just from what you've already said. That in my brain, that and I don't know if you even have the answers for this. This may just be a we don't know, or we'll get there when we get there.
Sure.
Are they making this out to be where they want to go? Full dive off the cliff thing. This will be the only thing we offer, or is this being presented as option as opposed to what we have? I know that's probably what they're doing now, but like long game, are they trying to say this is where we want to go?
Well, that's where I was just going with Yves Guillermo from Ubisoft. He wants gaming to go that way full force. He thinks that this next generation, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox original, or whatever they're going to call it, because it's going to be something stupid, is going to be the last generation of home consoles. And then from there on out, everything's just going to be riding off those consoles, cloud-based gaming with, software patches on their end that allows the hardware to run it and all that stuff. That's what he wants. That's what he's pushing for. And that's what scares me. Not because I'm afraid of change and I don't want things to go that way. What scares me the most about this is then they can dictate when a game lives and dies just based on offering it. It's if, right now I can turn around and I can play N64 games and Super Nintendo games and NES games because I still have those consoles and whatever. But in the future, if there's no more consoles and games aren't physical and you can only download them, and they decide, well, we're not going to support this game anymore, well, that game is literally gone forever and there's no way to play it. And that horrifies me, that you can just kill a game like that. Something that you're paying for, essentially,
That scares me, but also what scares me in the same concept with that would be having worked at a business where I dealt with people where they'd buy internet from us, and knowing how many people around here couldn't even get things like that. It's a scary thought of what's going to happen for rural markets. Because even though, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, these games are not being downloaded to your device. You're just fully streaming the game off of wherever they have it. Correct?
Yeah, it's all server based.
Right. So it's a full on stream that takes a strong bandwidth, especially if it's going to be in HD or 4K. It's going to take a really strong signal, as well as it's going to use a crap ton of data. So,
well, they backloaded all on their end. They have local server farms all over the dang place, and they're building more and they're opening more. But to get this to a point where it would be, the only option, they'd have to open a ton more, like thousands more just across the U.S. Never mind the rest of the world.
Oh no, I'm talking about from the consumer standpoint. Like their internet is going to be used up heavily to run this.
It will definitely take a toll on it, but it's. Like I said, I kind of did my research on this. I didn't read about anyone really having those issues. When this first came out, Sony kind of dabbled in this 2 or 3 years ago, and it didn't work out that well. It worked okay, but they did have the issues to it. I think, to Microsoft's credit, they kind of ironed out a lot of those issues. And like I said, they kind of backload everything on their end. They take care of the heavy speeds and are able to send it to you. In smaller packages, condensed, that you unpack on your. I don't know how it all works, so correct me if I'm wrong. But
yeah, I'd have a lot of questions on it, but I know a lot of that's stuff that can't be answered here. But the biggest thing is just figuring out how much of your internet it actually uses, because even home internet, by and large, most companies, it's not truly unlimited. They have a high cap, but it's not technically unlimited. I know that most places, Comcast, I think, has a terabyte of usage before once you go over that, they start charging you for however much you use.
They never really tell you that because most people aren't going to hit that. But
right now they won't. But getting into this, especially if we're talking 4K streaming, that's going to change that a little bit. And maybe not for like you said, maybe not for a casual gamer, but a hardcore gamer. If you're going to put in, days into doing this kind of stuff, you rack up your internet pretty quick.
Well, I would think, and this is, again, staying in the world we live in now, where you have your hardware, you have the games or whatever. I think your hardcore gamers are going to definitely want the best experience possible with a guarantee of no latency or anything like that. So they're the ones that are going to have the physical copy of the game. You know, this
Quite possible.
this service I see more with younger kids, with, you know, people who don't want to spend $60 on a game that they're going to play for a few hours and maybe not get to because they're too busy. Things like that. I don't think this is a horrible idea for that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's rough to say, you know.
Speaking of a younger audience, that I'll go ahead and bring up my second question I had initially in regards to the first question. Is this, since it's cloud-based and it's server-based, is this going to work similar to, per se, like Netflix and Hulu, to where not only can you do this on a system, but if you have a phone or a tablet, are they going to let you sign into your Microsoft account and be able to play the game on your freaking phone or tablet?
You know, that's a great question, and I think I heard that talked about, but I don't have the answer right now.
Okay, because that would be interesting.
I could Google it right now, but then you complain whenever I type on my keyboard because then you got to edit it out and whatever. So I don't know. The answer to be announced, but not now.
Well, see, here's how you fix that. You go ahead and start Googling right now, but don't say anything. And you let me give my rebuttal as you're Googling, and then I can just literally delete your audio to where it's not happening at all. That's how that works. But yeah, see, that would be a very interesting concept if they do that, because that would literally be, in a sense, creating a free version of their own Nintendo Switch without having to build a new console. They're like, the consumer already has the console. Here, sign in, and now you can play it wherever you want. Which is very interesting, if that is a thing. I don't know if it is. I'm just thinking in terms of server and how all that stuff works. I mean, I don't know what would be stopping you other than just not having the processing power, depending on the strength of the game. But if a lot of that is run on their end, you know, that's the biggest question, is how much processing are what we doing? You know, how much process is the consumer having to have for this to work?
So it looks like they have an Android app, only an Android app. It says, to be completely clear, this app does not have anything to do with playing games on your phone. It lists all the games available with your Xbox Game Pass or your console, and can push notifications when new titles are added to the service. You can use the app to purchase games on your account with a 20% discount. So I guess, like, if you're playing a game and you want to flat out own it, you can buy it, but that seems counterproductive to me. I don't know. Again, I don't have an Xbox. I don't have any interest in server-based gaming like this. So, shrug, you know, but...
Okay, so the answer is no, it doesn't seem to be on a phone, or...
No, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I know that, you know, there are services out there where you can take, you know, like a 10-year-old laptop and basically stream from a gaming PC somewhere else onto your laptop and run with the latest graphics and all that stuff with no extra plugins, because it's just streaming it live. And I've seen people do that with actually PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I was watching a streamer do that. He had a sponsorship, and they were like, here, try it. And so he took his wife's old laptop and played PUBG on max settings on it, and it worked. And he was able to play online and live and all that stuff, and it worked pretty well. So, I think that that's maybe something we'll see in the future for sure. But at the present moment, no, it doesn't seem to be available. But again, we're still very new into this technology.
For sure. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it eventually goes that way. Do we know, or have it, even though we don't know an exact answer, do we have any idea how much processing power it takes on the consumer end? Like, is it the same as running a full game, or is it vastly watered down due to them having a lot of it on their end?
I would imagine it would be the same. I don't know.
Okay. Because if it is, then that would put it way down the road for phones being able to handle something like this. But if their end is handling some of the processing power, I mean, like, again, I don't really know how that works in correlation to the separation, since you're not actually having the game at your house. There's a lot of disconnect here and unknown because of how new all this is. But if at all they are taking some of that load off of your system, then the phone idea starts to become more of a reality, phone or tablet or whatever have you. The fact of having a mobile gaming system without having to buy a new gaming system, which would be crazy.
Right, and I think that's the future that Yves Guillermo is talking about with, you know, this next series of consoles being the last home consoles. That's what he wants. And if, again, that I will resist that with everything I have. I'm just not okay with that as a fundamental practice. But that does seem to be kind of the trend of gaming these days. So it's a fascinating future ahead of us, one that also horrifies me.
And I could speak to a little bit on that I don't think, maybe even in our gaming lifetime, whatever that means, that physical copies will fully go away. People like to have tangible items they can hold in their hand, even if this does become the new norm. I don't think physical will ever just fully become extinct.
I think Nintendo will never get on that train. I think if any company is going to be like, no, we're going to continue to release consoles and we're going to continue to release physical games for those consoles, you can pretty much rely on Nintendo to be there for you. But I can see Xbox and Sony maybe kind of moving that way, especially Xbox right now, because they're the ones really pushing this. But it would not surprise me for Sony to get on this bandwagon either.
And here's a comparison I would make for this, and this is an interesting comparison because it has nothing to do with gaming. But on the music side of the world, I think it's fair to say most of what everybody listens to would be streaming. It'd be either Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, or YouTube, Pandora. Yeah, whatever that may have. And even if you
I'm literally listening to Spotify right now.
Oh, there you go. And even if you are purchasing music, it's probably also on one of those mediums, to where it's digital, it's not. But, and I know right now it's just saying all that is the opposite of what I was saying, but even all that to say, I know CDs are slowly going down, but they're still around. And
heck, vinyl is still.
I was about to say vinyl has come back to where people are literally paying way more money than vinyl cost, way more than it did. But because it's vintage,
hipsters will spend their dad's last dollar.
Yeah, because it is quote unquote vintage. Suddenly, it's way more expensive. It's not. No, it's not. I can.
Maybe for some of them, for like the collector's edition of it, like, oh, this isn't around anymore, that it's rare or whatever. But like, I don't know. To my understanding, vintage doesn't cost a lot to produce. And
well, here's the expensive thing. Here's where this comes into play, and this will apply to any market of any kind. So this can come back to gaming. It can apply to anything. When you have something that is truly vintage, meaning it by and large doesn't really exist anymore, the hard part is not getting the materials, like buying the actual hardware, the giant disc is nothing. That's cheap. That's fine. You can get it in bulk wherever you want to. It's not that much. But finding somebody who is knowledgeable in taking digital content, which is what your music's going to be, that's how in a studio is going to be digital, and translating it onto that. That's where
that's analog.
Yeah, that's where the cost is going to be, because you don't have anybody that does that anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's where the cost comes into play. The actual, everything else in between, no, there's no money. That's the only real crazy expense there, is finding someone that knows how to do this. And if it is in short supply but high demand, obviously they can make it expensive. That's the only reason that the price is what it is now.
But I really like your analogy there of like, even though, so much of the music world has gone digital, you still see a strong demand for the physical
all over the place.
And I hope that we have the same people that are willing to fight that way when it comes time for gaming to start to push that way. And we've seen the gaming industry bend to the demand of the viewers, with this whole thing of like, oh, the console always has to be online, and you know, oh, you can't share games with friends. It's once you buy a game and put it on your console, it's locked to it. You can't let a friend borrow a copy. That whole thing Microsoft did like 5 or 6 years ago, that didn't work out that well for them because their fans were like, no, I'm not on board with this. And Sony was like, welcome to our console.
Right.
And then Microsoft backrolled on a lot of that stuff, you know. So we've seen the fans say, no, this is not what I want. And the people putting the content out there saying, hey, okay, we'll change and we'll adapt. I'm hoping that's what happens with this. I'm hopeful.
Right. And especially as big into collectible and tangible collectible items that the gaming industry is, I'd have a hard time believing physical is going to completely fan out. That's just not, it doesn't compute in my brain that would happen even remotely close to where we are right now. It's just, you know, between collectible items, pops, just, you know, some people hate them, some people, but I mean, like, my gosh,
I don't mean to make you feel bad. If you like those Funko Pop things, power to you, and I'm happy for you or whatever. But I personally, my opinion, I think they look terrible, and they are terrible.
I literally have 6 of them in this room. Now, granted, I did not buy a single one of them. They were all gifts. It's become kind of a fun tradition between me and several friends that I have to where we just get each other pops.
Oh, okay.
And it's just more of like a funny tradition at this point.
All right.
And to be fair to what you said, I wouldn't say any of us think that they look awesome in comparison to what they're made after or anything like that.
Right.
They're just, I don't know, they're just small. They're small. They don't really take up a lot of room.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see the appeal. One of my boss was given one of the kids from Stranger Things. I don't remember which one.
Oh, nice.
And he got it for Christmas last year. Someone gave it to him, and he took it. He opened it, and he put it on his desk. And they screamed at him. They're like, "You took it out of the box!" And he was like, "Yeah,
yeah. All of mine are out. All of mine are out of the box."
I guess I don't know. I guess this coworker of mine was a diehard and did not want to see that happen. I don't know.
He's probably a collector. He's thinking of monetary value down the road if you don't.
I guess so. And, you know, again, power to you. You know, we all thought Beanie Babies would be worth a whole lot of money back in the day, but that ended up not really working out that well.
No one ever knows how much value something's actually going to, like, just, I don't know, like, I can get it to an extent, but, like, keeping things in the box, if it's not yours, just let them do what they want to do with it. I mean, you don't have any way of knowing if this thing is going to have value down the road. Don't deprive them of the joy of taking something out of a box and putting it where they want to put it.
Right.
Now, funny that you say that they actually picked a character from Stranger Things, because one of my actual, I don't know if I call this a rule per se, that's kind of a weird thing. None of the pops I have are people.
They're characters?
Well, I mean, they're characters, but they don't look like people. That just seems odd to me, because like then they're not distinct enough to where when you look at them, I immediately know who that is. Like the people from Stranger Things, they're just kids in 80s clothes. Like,
right. No, I had to ask him what it was, because there's just a kid in a baseball hat. And I was like, who is that? And he goes, it's what's his name from Stranger Things. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Just for humor's sake, I'll go ahead and list off what I have, and I guarantee you would know immediately what they all look like. I have a baby Groot. You're not going to miss that. I mean,
who's that?
Exactly. It's going to be hard to, like, I mean, it's freaking Groot. Everybody knows what that looks like by now. You have, I hate the name just escaped me. The Brotherhood from Fallout. One of the
Brotherhood of Steel.
The Brotherhood of Steel has the armor. You have one of those, which is a person, but it's the armor, so it's recognizable. And he's got the helmet on, so you know you don't see him as a person. I have the Colossal Titan from Attack on Titan. You won't know what that is, but any anime person.
I love how you just know that I'm not a weeb.
Any anime person that watched that would automatically know what that is. I have the Balrog from Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
I mean, even if you don't know what that is, you still think it's a demon. You're like, you know,
It's
something.
the you shall not pass thing.
Right. Then I have a Dark Souls 3 Red Knight.
Okay.
And then this is technically not a pop, but it stays right next to it because it's the same size and stature. I have a Kylo Ren bobblehead. But it's literally built the same way as the rest of them, so it looks like it.
I just have 2 amiibo on my desk. I have the Inkling from Splatoon, and I have Wolf Link from Twilight Princess. So.
Oh gosh, if I like went around this room, it would take forever. Like, there's, I think there's 8 Bionicles in here. Probably.
Well, we don't have time. In fact, we're pretty much out of time for this week. So.
You know, it's always fun to go around the room and kind of, you know, figure out what's going on. So to wrap up, I guess, everything in a nice little bow, summarize, I know we kind of just spent half an hour talking about it, but in terms of cloud-based gaming and what we know right now, where do you stand on it as a whole?
I'm in the middle of the road right now. It's making people play more games that they've never played before, try new genres, branch out, experience more things, and that's a really, really good thing. And I'm very supportive of that for that reason. But at the same time, it breeds of a darker future, and it's
scared to see what roads is going to open.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm being really cynical. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know.
I think you're being safely cautious. You know, just kind of.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm just being cautious, and I'm not the crazy old man standing on the street corner saying, "The end is coming.
Get off my lawn."
The end is coming. Get off my lawn.
It's still mine.
It's still mine.
It doesn't matter that the apocalypse is nigh. Okay,
I guess that can kind of be the comment question of the day, if you will, is, you know, what are your opinions? Maybe you know something about it that I don't. I'm clearly not an expert in this field, so educate me if I'm wrong about something, by all means.
Well, I actually had prepared a question of the day, but if we want to...
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, it's probably better than mine, so go ahead.
We can have 2. It's fine.
Okay, I'm down.
So this may be a question you've never thought of, and it may be something... a lot of people never thought of. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It has nothing to do with gaming.
What size is Matt Lane's shoes?
No, that's you know, I don't know the answer to that question because shoes are just ridiculous these days. I feel like every pair I have is something different. I legitimately don't know the answer to the question. But
all right, well, what is your question then?
So it has nothing to do with gaming. And I may even have to elaborate for you to understand the question fully, but do you have a favorite material to drink something out of? And you can let me know if you understand what I mean by that question.
Yeah, no, I do. We had kind of talked about this, I think, before the podcast, and I think even during the podcast, because Matt was drinking out of a ceramic mason jar.
Right.
I kind of like glass. I think glass would be my favorite thing to drink out of, be it like a glass from your kitchen cabinet or like a glass bottle or something like that, or a mason jar, you know.
Right.
I think glass would be my favorite thing to drink out of.
I definitely agree. I love glass. And I'm not going to spend time going over it here because you can spend hours on this stuff, but for anyone that gives their answer or wants to look into this, just look into a little bit on how material affects what you're drinking, because it's fascinating on what it'll do. Glass is about as natural of a taste as you can get to truly tasting what you are drinking without the material affecting it in a specific way. Everything else kind of alters the taste. If you want an actual answer of the worst, they say styrofoam dilutes what you're drinking out of way harder than any other material. So it kind of kills the taste, more or less.
Well, there you have it. There's a whole lot of information about something you probably didn't care to know about, and I can't wait to go not Google this later. So thank you.
Some
guys
people might find it interesting.
Some of the 3.1 thousand people who watched this.
Hey, well, none of them comment, so I have no idea.
Can we talk about that for just a brief second?
Sure, go.
Who are you?
Where do you get off?
I'm not sitting here like having a big head thinking that 3.1 thousand people are listening to my voice or whatever. That
no.
I'm that we're like popular or famous or anything, that we're just fascinated by like this number of people
I don't get it.
come out of nowhere
I don't get it.
and leave no trace of identity behind.
No, like it defies all logic because it's only season 3. They don't.
I want to see the analytics, Matt. I want to go. I need to grab your YouTube password.
I will literally.
I'm going to dive deep into these analytics and find out where these people are coming from.
As soon as we stop this podcast, I will pull it up for you. We will go over it. But for just a question of the day, you can answer both things. Because Jay's question was a good one too. Where do you stand on cloud-based gaming? And on top of that, if you've ever thought about it, what is your favorite thing to drink out of?
That's a fun question. I like that question. That's a good question.
And it's something you may have never thought of. And the same thing actually applies to food, believe it or not. And that gets kind of weird to think about. But that's a question for another day. So thank everybody for listening. Make sure to bearing down the hatches. Look into the Gaming of the Year categories and the especially the nominees. Something me and Jay will be hitting pretty hard tomorrow and start doing our homework leading all the way up until next week's episode. So be looking out.
We're gonna be talking about almost every category. I think there were a few that we were like on. We'll probably, if we have time, we'll hit them, and then we don't know when the video game awards are yet as of recording this podcast, but hopefully it'll line up with our schedule. I doubt it will.
That's going to affect a lot of how the next following episodes go. If it's far enough back, then we can break the categories into multiple episodes, so we're not having to condense so much. But if the date is much closer, then I don't know. We'll get that bridge when we cross it.
Yeah,
but
it's usually in early December, so it could be as soon as 3 to 4 weeks from now,
which would be perfect.
Which would kind of be great,
right?
But it probably won't be. So.
Knock on wood. But again, thanks everybody for listening and supporting the podcast. Just make sure to leave any comments you have, even if it's not about the question of the day. If you have anything you would like for us to talk about, even though we kind of have the next couple episodes set in stone, we always like to know what you want to hear. So just let us know, and we will think about it. And Jay might say no, but I can't control that.
If you ever don't feel like waiting for an episode to come out, you can always catch the live streams. They happen several times a week over on my Twitch page. Matt's sometimes hanging around there too, so you can just ask us live. If we're not going to talk about it on an episode, we'll at least talk about it there. So.
And Jay's Twitch channel is in the link to every single podcast we have on YouTube. So if you go in the description, there's a link there. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see y'all next week.
Matt sucks.
Yeah, that's